K9. What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. The K9 series made me want to drown myself. If you guys are unaware, I am currently going through every single Doctor Who spin-off and reviewing them all. And yes, that includes this one. Oh goody. K9, otherwise known as K9 Adventures, is an Australian children's sci-fi television show that aired on Disney XD. And yes, this counts. Sadly. Now, this isn't my first rodeo. I have actually watched all of these episodes before, but I thought to do it justice, I would put myself through them again, just to prepare myself for the video. These are awful. There is no punchline. There is no joke. Only sadness. And the K9 television series. Now, unlike the actual show itself, the backstory behind K9 is interesting and worth talking about. Bob Baker, K9's co-creator, has always sought to make a K9 TV series, and in 1997 announced in Doctor Who magazine that he was finally making one. Despite the large claims, nothing came of this until 2006, when it was announced that there would be a 26-part series called K9 Adventures, which would be set in space. Not only that, but this announcement would just so happen to coincide with K9's return to the screen in the episode School Reunion in Series 2. However, this premise of being set in space would be quickly abandoned as K9 began production in Australia. The real premise of K9 is that in the future of London, K9 sacrifices himself to beat some aliens and is then rebuilt into this unique, let's say, new design. There he teams up with the main character Starkey, Georgie, the Professor Griffin, well, I just know I'm going to keep calling Griffith, so there's just no point stopping myself, and Darius. Why everyone in London is Australian and why it looks nothing like London is never explained, and to be honest, I don't care. All of these characters are awful, as are the performances given by everyone apart from maybe Georgie. If I wanted to be really kind, then even then it still kind of sucks. Starkey, particularly as the main character, is so weak. And I think it's time we finally talk about it, the redesign. I remember when I first saw this, I hated it for the abomination that it is. The original K9 design is perfect. I love K9, I do. I've said on the channel before that I think every episode of classic Doctor Who is good up until The Invisible Enemy, and specifically The Invisible Enemy Part 2, which just so happens to be where K9 shows up, but that has nothing to do with K9. In fact, I love K9. I truly do. I love the voice. I even like the David Brady voice. That one's shit. No, I love John Leeson. I love the design. The idea is so charming. This is not charming. I personally think the design sucks. I hate it, frankly. But this is where we add some nuance in. You guys know me. I'm not a blind hater. Compared to everything else in this show, it is probably my favorite part. Yep, that's it. You heard me. This is my favorite part because at least it looks somewhat premium compared to the complete wall of shit surrounding it. The K9 prop stands out as the only visually interesting thing on screen. And John Leeson's voice also stands out in the soundscape as being the only good thing, because the first thing you will notice if you watch one of these episodes is that the sound is awful. But enough of that, let's get on to the episodes because there are a surprising number of them. The premiere, Regeneration, aired on the 3rd of April 2010. Fun fact, the same day as the 11th hour. This episode is not as good as the 11th hour. Being perfectly honest, I think this may be the best episode in the series, and I'd still rate it a 2 out of 10. That's not good. There is 26 episodes of this show, by the way. Class had 8. Then again, you know, give it a compliment. At least this TV show has a better title sequence than Class. The title sequence still sucks, but at least it's better than Class. In episode 2, we are introduced to one of the more interesting, baffling elements of the show, being Georgie's mum. For context, the villains of the show would be this shadowy government called the Department. Now, how all-encompassing the Department is, or who they really are, or what the hell is going on, I don't know. I have no idea what the world looks like for this show, and it doesn't help that there's very little actual location footage. They play stock footage, which doesn't doesn't count. But anyway, it turns out Georgie's mum works for the department, which could maybe be interesting, but it's not. There's a theme throughout the series of K9 having memory loss and having to remember stuff he's forgotten. Most of the time, the series is just giving excuses for him to not do stuff, which is frankly unpleasant to watch. Episode 6, Fear Itself, is maybe one of the more interesting ones. In comparison, I mean. This show is just weak. And I mean weak. I'm saying even the worst of the Sarah Jane Adventures dwarfs this. No comparison. It is like night and day in terms of quality, truly. And as you guys know, I have been plenty critical of certain Sarah Jane Adventures episodes. But that is just so infinitely far and away better than anything this show has to offer. It is genuinely unfunny. You guys will be surprised how little there is to talk about. Maybe I should just show every episode and its ranking on screen and then just skip and talk about the finale. So they try and do something big with spectacle, and as expected, it completely falls flat. It ends with a fake out K9 death, and then they try and set up another season. Thankfully, there is no more. And overall, I have lost the will to live. But luckily, there is another K9 show. Something which lasted a lot shorter, but is much more my speed. Something like K9 and Company. Now this is what I'm talking about. Real ones know. I had this shit on VHS. I have talked enough about this show. Time to talk about something I actually care about. Overall, 1.4 out of 10. W. K9 and Company was a failed spin-off from Doctor Who's 20th anniversary that features the titular K9 and Sarah Jane Smith. There is only one episode of this show, its pilot, A Girl's Best Friend. And I must say, yeah, it kinda sucks, but I have a real soft spot for this one. If you've ever watched like Dark Shadows, it kinda gives me those same vibes. I like the location, the setting, the premise is sound, and the biggest problem that stands out to me is the Brendan character. Brandon? I don't like him. I actually think the actor is pretty good. The characterization for him is just a bit grating. Now, yell at me all you want, this is just my opinion, but I think if this show was given time, it truly could become something special. This episode suffers from being kind of boring, to be honest, but as I mentioned, there is a lot of stuff I do really like here. I'm surprised there haven't been any big finished box sets of it yet. It is also a little poorly put together, the title sequence being an easy to point to example of this, with them reusing the same shots over and over again. But maybe it's my nostalgia talking, but I actually quite like the theme and find the visuals endearing, even if, given the context of this being a failed pilot, I can see how one could view this as a little embarrassing. For me though, the most noticeable issue is the editing, especially this cult sacrifice malarkey. The pacing and stuff around this is all very weird, but as I said, I do love the location filming. I always will. Maybe I was so burned from watching the K9 series that anything would have been a blessing after that, but I actually found this one quite a pleasant watch. It's a shame nothing really came of it, or even that it was so unpopular that even the EU hasn't wanted to continue on from it. Hey, Big Finish, my emails are open. I'd do it for you. I'm sure I could come up with an idea of how to do it. In fact, I'd actually scratch that. That could actually be a good video. I'll write that down for later. But Big Finish, my emails are still open. Hit up my line, let's see what we can do. I'd overall rate K9 and Company as B tier, a guilty pleasure, and much better than the other K9 series. I hope you enjoyed the video. Could I have gone more in depth about the true K9 Adventure series? Yes. Do I want to? Now, truthfully, these sections would just become repetitive because the problems are the same across every episode. Uninspired and overambitious storyline, boring and uninteresting characters, horrific visual style, and overall unenjoyable atmosphere. The sound also sucks. Not even just the soundtrack, which definitely sucks. Not even a good opening this time, just bad all round. But the sound in general is weird and bad. I don't know how they even fucked that up. Characters' voices frequently don't sync with their mouths. It's embarrassing. But here, I gave my rankings for every episode, my rankings for the show overall, and would definitely have to put this at the bottom of the barrel of Doctor Who spin-offs that I have seen. Actually, maybe it's better than Auton. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I've been trying to release a whole load of content recently, so if you've been enjoying and want to support the channel, considering clicking the join button below to become a member and gain access to a multitude of special channel perks. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next one. If you stuck round to the end, here's a cookie. Now play the real outro.